Victor, are we streaming this morning? We are, aren't we?
So it's all good with the editing and also with the film. Just
The
announce
film?
it. The 30 seconds.
Great. Okay.
Thing, so just
Okay.
announce it.
Okay, we need to get going. Victor, could you possibly shut the door, please? Or pull it too, because there still might be the odd person. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I hope you all slept well and you're all refreshed for another exciting day. I wanted to remind everybody that you need to check out by 11 o'clock. So there is a break for half an hour to have a cup of coffee when, if you haven't already checked out, you will need to. But I hope most of you have, because I have spoken to some of you, but not all. I'd like everybody to do a 30-second video at some point, either in the break or before you leave. And the 2 points are, what's your take-home message, and why did you come to this meeting? So literally 30 seconds. You can't fit much in 30 seconds, but make it powerful, please. And so that would be good. So anybody that has to leave in the break, please do not leave without doing that. Theodora is going to be the shepherdess to ensure that you're not allowed out the front door unless it's done. So that's great. Thank you.
Anyway, people who need to leave before in the break will stand at the door and everybody would just come really for 30 seconds. We have no more time, only 30 seconds to answer those 2 questions.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Just as a bit of a guide, just to keep it as short as you can, I have my 3 points, but I might only get 2 in. So it does need to be succinct. That's great. So on to the tour de table. What we want to hear is, again, 30 seconds. It's all about threes, you know, in communication. It's all, so 30 seconds from each organisation on what you have achieved in this last year. But we will excuse Noah from actually contributing to that. Okay, so I'll hand the microphone round, but I have got my phone here. As rude as it is to have a phone, it is set to 30 seconds, and it will put an alarm on. So, Anessa, I think let's go to you first. Your 30 seconds starts now.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I think I had already a presentation yesterday, which was longer than 30 minutes, 30 seconds. We are really proud that we achieved this new disease code for FH in Latvia. And also, of course, we have improved the work of registry. Together with registry, we have more patients who are diagnosed FH and more people who are aware about FH. And we are really proud of the work we are doing, and we are going to proceed with it.
That was brilliant. So, oh, hold on, how do I turn that off? Okay, Gunnar.
When do I start?
Now.
As we have focused on following up the implementation of the new guidelines and the disease code, or the code in Sweden, but we are also focused on establish an organization that will continue to live after the people that's involved today. So the young generation, you see, Linnea, they can take over. So we have joined an umbrella organization with 35 or 36,000.
It's me, I guess.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
I've still got to work
Start?
this out.
Okay, I start. So actually we will have our big event co-hosted by the Austrian Atherosclerosis Society and patient next Tuesday, so I'm very proud of that. And we are also, we had good media coverage the whole year, and we also participated in the Austrian Women's Run to raise awareness of FH, and of course we had our patient meeting, our annual patient meeting, and we also started like smaller patient meetings all over Austria, so I hope we continue with that.
Excellent. Do you want to pass on to Ruth?
Thank you. Cool. Okay, so this year, CRE, we ran 2 cholesterol masterclasses, so 2 conferences where we had medical people from all over the country, and there was a big focus on FH, so it's all about raising awareness about it. We also did a review of a few GP practices in the west of Ireland to try and find FH and try and find people with it that weren't already diagnosed, and that was quite successful. And then we are trying to set up a patient group at the moment. That's what we're really pushing for. So we have a couple of people identified to be our next spokesperson. Thank you.
I'm from Switzerland. We had last year we had several events. One was called Slow Up, which was organized by the city of Basel, and we could measure cholesterol and identify several FH patients. We have 30 years review on our work in Switzerland published in atherosclerosis, and we have a program that's called Sapphire.
Ok, c'est parti. I'm going Tour de France in Dijon, Lyon, twice in Paris for one in Lipid Academy, another one in Soissons, and in Nantes. Meeting with the health authority in the health ministry in Paris, and that's it.
My 10 seconds more. We had a few, at least 3 culinary workshops with professional chefs to the FH patients to give them some advices about their diet. We had a nice awareness day when we measure lipids and find few patients to carry on with them in the lipid clinic. And well, we in this year we have a PCSK9 for a few patients. Well, yeah, that's it. Thanks.
From my side, it's very easy. The most important event this year, we set up our patient organizations, and we also set up action plan what to do till the end of this year and maybe next year. And here we are sharing ideas and sharing plans, sharing best practices. That's it.
9 seconds to go.
I can be very brief. The past 2 months have been orienting about how to set up a patient organization in the Netherlands, and it's been very inspiring to be in the US and be here. So I hope you will hear more from me in the next couple of years.
Well, in Hungary, our this year's patient meeting was a special one because it was combined with the Heart Foundation, and it was I mean real heart disease people together with the FH people. So actually, we could see what the consequences can be if the FH is not treated. It was much more, I mean, intense than otherwise. There were dietetics as well, who helped to control the diet. I mean, real life, they analyzed, for example, the menu of the hotel. That was also funny. And it was a real actual feeling of what we risk if we don't cure our patient. Yeah. To pass on.
Okay, there have been some information actions with to raise awareness within health events and various congresses, and an important action was to organize a meeting with the Belgium Atherosclerosis Society with the purpose to set up a national registry, and in fact 600 data from patients were included there.
Hello. So this year we focused on raising awareness. Besides our 4 meetings with patients, I held a presentation about FH during the annual Congress student for medicine students, so they can all know what FH means and what FH patient needs. And we also managed to squeeze a short presentation to the next Congress of Personalized Medicine in Romania this month, late month, to also raise awareness about FH and talk about PCSK9 and the importance for FH patients.
Good morning. In Italy this year, our lipogene registry has over 8,000 patients and in 47 centers. We were on Facebook every day of the Awareness Week, but our biggest battle was in Palermo. It was about lack of medication in the south of Italy. We contacted the local authorities. It was very official and bureaucratic. But anyway, in the end, we won our battle. Thank you.
Hello. This year, Anif participated at the International Conference of Lipidologists, Mathematic Lipid Club, at the Zanit Kelly Award established by Sanofi to support the value of narrative in the patient care pathway. It's an active part for the diseases of competence in the presentation of laws to improve treatment and protect the rights of patients. It played a decisive role in the positive resolution of problems concerning administrative delays of hospital, related to the supply of medical devices, and is organizing a scientific conference. Thank you.
Start. Hello, I'm very proud of our FH Awareness Week in September. We checked cholesterol and educated more than 700 people, and we detected about 10 new people with FH. And we made 2 short Instagram and YouTube videos with the influencer, skateboard world master Maxim. He is able to make young people to listen because we have problem that about 2/3 of young people with FH disconnect pediatric care and don't continue in other doctors. So this Instagram campaign is very important to motivate them to check.
We participated in various congresses in Berlin, Stuttgart, Bad Orb, and so on. For example, in Munich, we presented our organization to the European Society of Cardiology Congress with a lot of information for the patients. Also, we were involved with the information stand at the Pediatric Congress in Berlin last year. They were presented our brochure, Lena hat FH. The interest was very great. By the end of the second day, we had no more brochures.
Wow. I think Gunnar summed it up for Sweden. Yeah. That's fine.
Right. So in the UK, we have developed a midterm objective for identifying inherited lipid conditions. We already know in the last 30 years we've found 25,000 of them, and we want to double that in the next 5 years by 2023 up to 50,000. And our website has 2 million hits a year. We're developing a new website, and that's launching on the 26th of November. And by January, we want to be... we want to have doubled that. So it goes to show how difficult that 30 seconds is. Thank you, everybody. I think that was really, really useful. A little more time would have been even more useful, but I think we should do this each year, actually. Perhaps 45 seconds, but it's a good thing to do. So I'd like now to introduce Dr. Sophie Belliard, University Master of... Oh, sorry. I have to press stop. So, Dr. Sophie Belliard, University Master of Conference in Marseille University, specialist, oh, I need to put my teeth in this morning, specialist in endocrinology and nutrition in La Timone Hospital in Marseille, and responsible for the FH registry, and president of Annette's scientific committee. And Sophie's going to talk to us about the registry in France. Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you very much. I think it will be longer than 30 seconds. Okay, I hope it's not going to ring. No? Okay. I have to put my presentation. Oh, it's written in Polish, no? And animasiok is I don't know the language. I'm sorry. Okay. So first, thank you for inviting me today, even if it's Sunday in the Roissy airport. I'm really sincerely happy to be there with you. And I think it's important to collaborate between physician and patients. And today I'm going to give you some data of the French familial hypercholesterolemia we set up 3 years ago now in France. Oh no, it's not that. It's no. Sorry? Ah. No, I don't know. Is it there? It's too modern for me. No, that is the pointers. Okay. How does it work? Like on the right?
Left and the right.
Okay. Okay, it's quite simple. Okay. So first I will talk about the registries because I'm going to explain why is it important to have register for improving the knowledge of FH disease. So as you know, the cardiovascular risk is very high in FH patients, and many clinical trials are done with the placebo group. You know, there is always a group with the effective molecule and another which is compared to another group with placebo. And as the cardiovascular risk is very high, it is not ethical to have placebo groups in FH patients. So, for example, all the data on the cardiovascular risk and cardiovascular events in this disease are extrapolated from observational study and registers. It's not ethical to have clinical trials with randomized groups. So first, it is important to have register for evaluating cardiovascular risk in FH. So, as you know, lipid-lowering treatments are crucial in FH patients, and it's highly beneficial to start them during childhood. So it means that FH patients need a long-time follow-up all along their life and to have regular evaluation of the cardiovascular disease all along their life. And registers are really crucial tools to promote the long life follow-up and the long life evaluation of patients. It is not possible with a clinical trial which usually the follow-up is between 2 or 5 years only. For the long-time follow-up all along the life, only register can do that. So register provide data on real-life data, and these data are not extracted from clinical trial. For example, with register, we can have the side effects of treatments, because in clinical trial, for example, patients who have myalgia under statin therapy cannot be included in clinical trial. So the only way to know about the real side effects of treatments, and for example, the myalgia under statin, is to have data on patients in register with real life data. And another example of real-life data in the register are the therapeutic observance or therapeutic compliance. The only way to know the compliance of patients is to include data in register on many years and to have a follow-up on many years. After, register can provide information of the evolution of medical practice over the time, that you know that recommendations, for example, are changing over the time. There are new recommendations, for example, for the LDL goal, for the vascular imaging, for the management of FH patients. And only a register can give information of the evolution of medical practice. And we have long-term data with a register of patients for sometimes 10, 20, or 30 years follow-up. So there are benefits for patients in the register and for clinicians and researchers. For patients, I said the benefits is really to improve the care of the disease, to improve the cascade screening with the registers, and to assess to pharmacovigilance data. It's very important to follow the pharmacovigilance data of the new lipid-lowering drugs, like anti-PCSK9 antibodies. And for clinicians, of course, it's favorable relation between centers and between experts in FH. In France, we know each other, and we've got a good network all around the country, and we can exchange between us. We can make pharmacovigilance follow-up of the new drugs, and I think register really engage physicians to develop really good clinical practice and to share with their colleagues. So before talking about the French register, I just wanted to show you a world tour of a register of FH patients. So the older one is the Simon Broom register, which was born in 1980, and it involves 21 lipid clinics in UK, and with, I think it's really more, but in the publication there is almost 3,000 patients in this registry. You know, as we said yesterday, that in Netherlands there was a national program, even if it's now shut down, but there was a national program who make the screening of 14,000 patients, more than 14,000 patients. In Norway, there is a national program, a genetic program, so only patients with a molecular, meaning a genetic diagnosis, are involved in this registry. In Denmark, there is a really big study in all the Copenhagen population with a clinical or molecular diagnosis. In Spain, I don't know if there is someone from Spain. There, no, okay, because there is a really good dynamic from with a new registry which is called Safe Heart Registry, and only patients with a genetic diagnosis are involved in this registry. There is 25 lipid clinics. It's a lot of lipid clinics with more than 4,000 patients, and in Portugal also there is a work on molecular diagnosis patients. So, as you maybe know, there is an article last week, I think it was published last week or this week, in Atherosclerosis, which is the journal of European Atherosclerosis Society. And I think it's interesting for you because it's talking about the care pathway in all countries. And here in European countries, you can see in Germany, there is a National Care Height Registry initiated 2 years ago, and all country is talking about the care pathway of FH in this country. And you know that beside Europe, there is other registry, but not so much. There is one in Canada, but I really don't know. I searched, but I really don't know how many patients there are in the registry. In South Africa, in Asia, in America, there is the Cascade FH registry, but as we talked yesterday, the patients have to enter their own data in the registry, and I don't think it works because, no, when I went to the website of Cascade registry, I didn't find a lot of patients. I'm not sure it works if patients have to put his own data in the registry. I really think that physicians or other people have to do that. So now I'm going to talk about the French register. So a national network of physicians and genetician people set up the French registry in November 2015, so 3 years ago. The registry is sponsored by the NSAFE, which is the National Society of Atherosclerosis, the French Society of Atherosclerosis. Now, in 2018, there are 18 centers participating to the register, and we propose to include patients with homozygous or heterozygous familial hypercholesterolemia, and adults and children. For adults, we only give an information letter, and for children, both parents have to sign an authorization for being included in the register. Okay, and we can include patients with clinical diagnosis. So in France, we use the Dutch lipid score or genetic diagnosis. And we enter a lot of items on the patient, on the cardiovascular disease, on the family, on the treatments, on the reasons for not taking treatment, for example, on other cardiovascular risks like tobacco, diabetes. We enter a lot of data. So here it is the map of France with all the centers participating to the register. So there are pediatric center. For example, in Lyon, there are 2 centers, an adult one and a pediatric one. In Tours also. So you can see that it covered a lot of part of France. And in, I don't know the name in English, but overseas countries, we also have centers, one in La Réunion. Also, FH is not frequent in La Réunion. We don't know why, and one in La Martinique. So in October 2018, there were more than 5,000 patients included in the registry, belonging to 3,800 families. Each family have a number, and if a patient is following in Lyon, for example, and his aunt is in Nantes, he can say, oh, my uncle is in Marseille, and he's got the number family 1,200, and so in Nantes, they have to put the same number family for the patient. Okay, so we've got a network, and we communicate between us to give the same number family for all the family in France. We only have 262 children. I think we can improve that, but I think a lot of children are not included in the registry. I know that. So we are doing a study with 2 pediatrics in France to enter more children in the study. And you know, in France, the gold standard test to assess the FH diagnostic is the genetic diagnosis, and we've got 4 laboratories doing this genetic diagnosis in France. And for the moment, patients are not paying the genetic diagnosis, so we can do it easily. So almost 2/3 of patients have a genetic diagnosis in the register. So now I'm going to talk about 4 projects we have in the registry to give you some example about the project we are working with. So first, we are working on a study on LDL apheresis. In France, there is almost 2,000 patients treated with LDL apheresis. In the register, more than half of them are included in the register, meaning that the other patients are not belonging to the register. And we register more than 3,000 LDL apheresis sessions, and we're working on that. First, we have 3 studies. We have 3 studies on LDL apheresis. The first one is about experience of the disease in patients treated with LDL apheresis. We are working with a sociologist, and we are working on the quality of life of patients treated with the very heavy and complex treatment. And we designed an interview about the quality of life and the life with their family, with their work, because if you have to come every week to do LDL apheresis, of course, it's complicated with your work, with your family, with your hobbies. So we're working about that with this patient, with the sociologist. We've got a second project, which is finished and published, about the compliance with the procedure. And first, we thought that the teenagers had a bad compliance with the procedure, and it's really hard for them to come every week, but we were wrong. And teenagers come every week, and the factors giving a low compliance were the distance between the center and the habitation, because sometimes patients do more than 200 kilometers to come to the center to have the procedure. And for next year, this is the next project. We're going to work about the cessation of procedure apheresis treatment with the reimbursement of anti-PCSK9 antibodies in France, because in France the Praluent from Sanofi is reimbursed since a few months only for patients who are doing LDL apheresis. We've got another project in children in France, working with some pediatrics in 3 or 4 towns, because we only have 2,062 children in the register. And we'd like to improve really the cascade screening and the genetic testing. And we've got 2 projects on the management of FH children in France. And we are going to we'd like to see if the register improved the familial cascade screening since 3 years. Another project in the registry, I think it's very interesting, this project. It's called Chopin for Cholesterol Personalized Innovation. And it's a national study, and there is a sub-study in Chopin which is called Sapphire Study. And Sapphire Study, the aim of Sapphire Study is to identify cardiovascular protective factor in FH. Because we saw that in our registry and in other ones, it's a very small number, but some patients with FH are old and have no atheroma in their coronary arteries or carotid arteries. And it seems that some patients, some few patients, but some patients seem protected from cardiovascular disease. And we work to identify these protective factors of atheroma in these patients. So in this project, we are looking for patients more than 50 years old with no atheroma. We are doing calcium score or a scanner of coronary arteries with no atheroma, and we are looking for genetic or other factors protective, and I hope we will have some very interesting results about it. And the last project I wanted to talk about, it's the setup of care pathway for FH patients in France. So we set up 3 care pathways in 3 regions, here in the west, here in the south, and here in Marseille and Bouches-du-Rhône. And I can talk about this pathway because I know really well it. So it's a pathway we set up involving the general practitioners, involving a nurse, involving a laboratory. For example, we ask to all laboratory of the region to put in their results if the LDL cholesterol above 190 milligram per liter. You have to think to a familial hypercholesterolemia, and you have to talk about this disease with your general practitioner. So on all the results on LDL, you have this sentence if the LDL is above 190. And we are working now with this pathway to define the optimal care pathway for FH patients. And now I can give you some intermediate results. We are really good to detect index case, but for the cascade screening, it's very complicated. So the other case in the family, they are not coming to the hospital. We have the index case, and after that's all. We say we have to come with your children, etc. But it's really difficult to have the rest of the family, and I think it's the same for other countries, but we can talk about it. So to conclude, I think the French register is creating, I'm sure, I wrote is expected to create, but now it's done. It's creating a really dynamic for collaborative research for network on the national country. And we hope with the register, we're going to improve the high standard of care, the cascade screening, and finally, the main goal of this is to reduce cardiovascular disease in the population of FH patients. Oh, okay. It's not Roissy, it's Marseille. I'm sorry. Maybe for another time. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sophie, for a really, really interesting presentation. I'll be very interested in the results, in particular of the Chopin project. So I think we've got time for a couple of questions. I have a question myself, but I'll hand to you first.
Anyway, I have 2 questions. Actually, it's one comment and one question. The comment is I think it's absolutely important what you do, what you said when you said that some FH patients are protected by something, and it's even within families. Within families, one is protected and one is not. And I've been thinking about this for years and talking to our doctors and say and scientists, you have to find out why. So I think it's thank you for doing this, and I'm very, very interested in hearing about your results. And the second, the question I have is, in the beginning, you said an FH patient needs a lifelong observation. So how are you doing this with the registry? Because I'm also the project coordinator for the Austrian FH registry, and we only have, after 5 years, we have a follow-up, but then we don't see the patients any longer, because the patients are, of course, referred back to their doctors. So how are you doing this? I'm interested in that. Sorry.
I think there is a bias of recruitment, because patients who have a follow-up in the specialist center are patients with a complication or something like that, and they come every year or every 2 years to have a consultation in the specialist center. But of course, if they go back to the general practitioners, I think we won't see them again. But I always say to my patients, you know that research is evolving, there are new drugs, and it's important to go to a specialist center every 2 years, for example, to have new information on the disease. And usually patients come. Okay, but I think it's important to have a network all over the country to say the patient, you've got a center near your habitation. To favor the consultation.
Thank you. Any other questions? Can you pass that to Vince, please?
Sophie, how many patients among the register have high Lp(a)? And does it condition the indication of LDL, Lp(a) apheresis?
For LDL apheresis.
It's not?
The high level, if you've got an isolated high level of Lp(a), it's not a sufficient indication to have LDL apheresis in France.
How do you treat them?
We do not treat them.
Wow. The apheresis is the only treatment in the UK that's available for LPA at the moment. So, yeah, wow. Okay, I still think you're doing amazing work. So my question to you is, I don't know what the challenge is around getting family members in, but in the UK, we have a mixture of direct and indirect contacts. I think everybody has different approaches here. And so I'd be interested in what happens in France.
We've got a project with genetic counselors, because it's until now genetic counselors were dedicated to oncogenetics, and now we are working to specialize them in familial hypercholesterolemia. So we have some genetic counselor, we work this, and we're trying to work with him and general practitioners with telemedicine. I don't know the name. Yeah, telemedicine. Okay, telemedicine. Yes, we have a project with general practitioners contacting the genetic counselor by telemedicine for talking about the genetic results and for doing the cascade screening in the family. Because I think the cascade screening of the family cannot be in the hospital. I think it has to be in situ, with general practitioners in the town of the patient, where the patient living. And we're trying to develop that with genetic counselors.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very interesting indeed. And I think we would all quite like to be right there with that beautiful sunshine. So, so not only are we live streaming, but we are also on Facebook Live this morning. So that's first time ever. I think this is an interesting development for FH Europe. So, the reason that we're at this point, and there is not the next bit on the agenda, is because we wanted to fit in the editing of videos. I did try and do a video last night, but my environment wasn't right. So I didn't actually get it done. Also, I downloaded the editing software and I can't work it out. So, Victor, I need your help. So hopefully, Victor is going to enlighten us with how to do this. So Victor, over to you. Thank you very much.
We'd like to show you 3 little steps how to make videos. Okay. We need now all right. Escape. No. Wait a second. Okay. One more time, please. Okay. For the first, I'd like to ask you, please, everyone, pick up your phones. With your selfie stick, of course. Where are the selfie sticks? At the room? Why? Oh, perfect. Really? Where are the phones? In your head? In your head? Yes, 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 yes. Okay, please take the landscape mode. Okay. Okay. Take the camera, please, everyone. And change your position to video. What is happening? Something happened. It's never happened with an iPhone before. Sorry. So, we should learn 3 little steps. The first one, did someone download an iMovie or a Filmer ago? Yesterday? Only Jules? No one of you? Did you? You have an iPhone? You are an iPhone user. Someone who has an Android? Android user, someone? No, okay. We will show it with an iPhone. So, if we could start, I will.
Okay, so while they are fixing the camera, I'm going to talk a little bit about what editing is. So basically we're recording clips on the device, and they are, for example, okay, here we go. So they are usually longer than we just need a specific part. The first type of editing is trimming. Like we remove the front, which is not necessary. For example, while we're pushing the button, shouldn't be in the video, and the same at the end. So we trim the video from the beginning and the end. We just use the useful part. If there's a longer part, we can split it. There will be different options for that. So I think Victor's going to record the video for our example. Yes, that was a video, okay. So in every editing program, basically it's called non-linear editing softwares. So basically you can move every video and audio clip and even still photos on a timeline. The timeline is representing the length of the video, and usually you can see the audio as well on a separate channel. Okay. So, okay.
Thank you. Did you see I'm trimmed the end and the start? With this little yellow stuff here. I'm pulling in and out. And that's what I give it the starting point of the video. Okay? I take this point before the moving. I catch the end of the video when it's finished, the movement. I'm going back, like this. And if it's okay, I push on done. Trim the original or save as a new clip. If you want to have more space on your phone, trim the original. Okay, let's check. Do another video.
Can I ask you then?
Of course.
I downloaded, I kept doing that last night, kept falling out of this. So I downloaded the software, but when I play my video, your thing that's come up doesn't come up on mine.
Because when you stop that, oh, here comes the edit button.
Oh,
You push the edit button.
Okay,
and please show me what are you doing with the start of the video.
So I press that.
Yes.
I would then go that.
No, just one finger.
Oh, there.
Okay. Sorry. Stop the video. Okay. And the end.
Oh,
and the front.
That's clever.
Okay.
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 Thank you.
Did anyone do this? iPhone users?
Sorry, can I just ask, are we using iMovie or are we using the camera?
No, it's just a simple camera because you downloaded the iMovie and it is automatically gives the edit button. If you
It's automatically, sorry, you go to video.
yes, and there is an edit. You start to record the video. When you're finished, that will be an edit button.
It'll be added to the iMovie.
Yes. No, that is not an iMovie yet. Just a simple video editing place. Okay? And after, when you open the app, after you could use it well. So. Okay?
Can you edit it to say I want more light, I want less light?
Of course, of course. But not here, because we are not in the app yet. Okay. We just made a short scene.
Am I jumping ahead of myself?
No. So, we make a lot of short scenes, which could be a sentence, which could be a picture, which could be a small information, what I like to give. Okay, please stop. Okay. And now, let's open the app, please. Took and iMovie. Where it? Oh, yes. Okay. And now we are in the app. Okay. Create a project, a movie. Okay. Create movie. And the simplest plus from the video. And here comes the last few seconds with this. I give it with the plus button, and here comes the timeline. I can edit here also. God bless. As you see, this is a short movement. Okay, it's getting over, and it will stop, and I like to trim it a little bit shorter, like this.
From the beginning. And the beginning.
And from the beginning, of course. Okay. If I push it, there will be a yellow sign, and I trim it, trim before it starts moving. Oh, it is getting start. Okay, that's all. And if I push the play button, I will see the short scene. Right? Don't be afraid. We are recording it. You can see, you can watch it at home again and again. So that was a scene, and I need one more scene that I push the plus button. Here comes the next video with plus button again. Here comes here. Okay, if I don't want to use it, I can push the video long with my fingers, and there come up a short, small buttons at the down, and you could delete it. And that's the only, that scene deleted, what you picked up.
From the timeline.
From the timeline. Okay, which one? Okay. A record from yesterday with a plus button. Okay. And here we go. Okay. I trim the end of it. Okay. Let's play what we did. Okay, did you see the cutting? No. What's happened here? And check this. It's a very stylish cutting, don't you? And there's a small button, as you see here. There's a known or theme. It just looks like very beautiful like this. Oh, good. Okay.
Different kind of transitions between the shots. So that's why it offers some preferences like dissolve or simple cut, or with this star effect and some effects you can use.
Options coming up where are you getting those editing options coming up?
If you push the video long a little bit with your finger, okay. And like this, and I think you are a step before. Please open up the app again.
So, you want me to close the app and open it again?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And after you push on the movie making. Okay? Not a trailer. Okay? So yes, we use the cutting images, or like a simple fade, what you prefer, or what your information needs to. because if you make a fast clip with a lot of pictures with 1 or 2 seconds length, you need to tack, 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 tack. You cannot use fade or something which is a lot of seconds using from you. Okay, I push on done button, and here is my movie. What I can edit more at a later time if I want to, or I can send it to my friends or wherever I want to. Maybe to Facebook, or save to files, save video into our video library. Click. Okay, you can choose the export size. We prefer the HD, or bigger if we can. We will do this in normal HD. This is exporting movie. Ta-da! And here comes into library. And that's all. You can do it. That's how simple it is.
Okay, I just brave you to try it and play with this. So you don't worry about you make a great mistake at home if you ever never ever tried before, because when Victor was cut and that shot, that was cut only from the iMovie timeline, but your phone still keeps the original material in your phone. So don't worry, you never make mistakes or accidentally horrible mistakes. You will keep your shots already, and another some.
Yes. If you want to work forward with your project, you can push the edit button, and we are come back again, and you can give more videos to your project, like this. I will trim it. No, not this. Let's check this. Yes. The front seconds will be enough to the end of it. Okay. I need to trim it back because I like to have a short. Oh, 30 seconds. As you see, near to the yellow line, there is a little seconds information. As I roll it up or down, the time is changing, as you see. And if you have to, if you have to be sharp, you can use that way. Okay, but if I don't want to use it here, I can push that video and yeah, okay.
With the method of drag and drop, when you made an order in between the shots and later you decide to change the order of the shots, then just drag and drop, very simple. Take that shot to what you want to change, the position, and move there where you want to put, and then you are able to change this order of the shots.
Nem, kidobta. Okay. 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 So, any one question?
Is there any more question? Okay, I hope it would helpful for you, and just brave you again. Play, play, play. It's not very serious. It's just a funny game for you.
Thank you. But after the event, if you have any question, we are here. You can ask, and we will help you how to make a great video with your phone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. I think it is just exactly as you've said. You've just got to practice. So guess what I'm doing all evening tonight. So I think it's quite, and I think the other thing that's quite interesting is when you have media training, they talk about how you just, do kind of snippets. So when you're videoing, if you answer a question with the question in the answer, if you see what I mean, it's going to be easier to then edit videos. Anyhow, nonetheless, I think that's very useful for me, me at least, and hopefully for a lot of you. So now we're going into the coffee break. Please remember you need to check out if you haven't already, and please remember the 30-second video. Enjoy a cup of coffee. Thank you.
Because we have found out that several so after they are investigation, then they are transferred, but there's a standard operating procedure set up, so they can follow it. Yeah.
Very frustrating.
I can understand that.
And it's also, I talked to Vincent about it the other day. There are so many egos in this project.
Oh, yeah. But we want when we started, the center said, oh yeah, we will keep this. And then they realized, now we have 2,000 pages. We can't do it. And then they realized, oh, this is, that's the reason we are also trying to set up that they have to change because then they need to have a dialogue with the center. And it might be that they are transferred back. Because the primary care doctors, they don't understand. They are not too deep into it so that they can actually talk to the DCS. You don't know what will happen 2 years back. It's now it's mainly based on how expensive it is. Because if they are ECSK9 and they go to a private care, they can completely do that. But the important is that he measures and he finds out, oh, there's been a deviation or something has happened. And then they can refer back in. Otherwise,
That's why I'm on the break with her, because it's and if I cannot reach this goal, then
but I think we have the benefit that this is based on Ministry of Health and Welfare, so we can always relate back to that.
Our Minister of Health has been there 3 times. here, it's also the pharmacist, because I've been trying to get one of these doctors, because they see, you know, they do a project like at the pharmacist, they have their cholesterol pricks, you know, and then they refer the patients to like primary care or whatever. So I mean, these are the most important primary care and maybe pharmacies.
Yeah, in that case, that we try also to get different labs because you can use a private person.
They use different labs, you know, because there are sometimes harmonized for us, and then we harmonize them. You know, then you have these egos, these professors, they just want to think of themselves and their data, and so from it was just have to check out.
I have checked out, but I'm going to pick up my boarding pass.
city tax.
Oh yeah, no, I forget. I travel all the time. I still forget sometimes. Brussels, you always get. And sometimes you can pay it in advance, and
I
sometimes
much
you can't.
prefer to just pay it all together.
It's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah. If I had the option, I would do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't see that option, and then I will grab a quick coffee.
Yes, it's a coffee.
Yes, it is.
That's why nobody's here.
Exactly.
Kávészünet. Ilyenek. Letöltöm addig a Dórinak a prezentációját gyorsan. Theo's presentation. Kikapcsoljam addig a mikit?
Kapcsolt ki, most nem lesz semmi.
I can send it in via, yeah, it's better. But I thought I updated that. Just take a seat. I'm sorry to interrupt. We are going to start the meeting, even if the chairman is not here. I like that. This gives me an opportunity to say a few words. I'm sorry to say, but I took the microphone. I just like to inform that if you have homozygous patients in your organization and you would like to spread some kind of documentation, there's a small brochure available describing a homozygous FH, and it's translated into different languages. So if you have some thoughts and would like to have a copy of this or many copies, you can talk to this lady here. And then, of course, you need to read it through and see if you can adjust it to the local rules and whatever in it. But it's available, and it's, I don't know how many languages, but it's already in a lot of languages.
Yes, it's available in Greek, in Italian, in Arabic, Spanish,
German and English.
German, English, yeah.
You have a copy here if you like to see and have a look. But then you can talk to Sally to get them.
Because we've had queries for Arabic, that's why I was very keen to know about that from Northern Ireland because of the refugees.
Thank you very much, Gunnar. So for gate crashing, but that's fine. It's all about the patients. So I am now going to hand over to Theodora because she's actually going to talk to us all about rare diseases. And it's all about whether we, as FH Europe, but also as you as individual organisations, are going to cover wider than FH and the rarer diseases that exist. So Theodora, over to you. With her little one sleeping, she's been so amazing.
Thank you. So hello everybody again. Sorry that I am like this, but if I put her down, she might cry, so I take the safe way. And I would like to present today a very short presentation about rare diseases. I'm sure that most of you already heard about rare diseases, but I would like to cover some of those aspects, that how many rare diseases there are worldwide, how many people are diagnosed, and why is it important for us today. So what is the rare disease? A rare disease in Europe is a disease affecting less than 1 in 2,000 citizens. Over 6,000 distinct rare disease areas there are on the world. 6 to 8% of the population over lifespan. 60 million people living with rare disease in Europe and in the USA. So this is quite a high number, but when we are looking at the rare diseases, we can see that these 60 million is divided to so many rare diseases. There are few physicians that they are seeing one patient in their whole entire career. And the reason is why the rare diseases has an importance is also to raise awareness that when a patient comes to a physician, with a certain rare disease, then the physician might have like an alert in the head and say, okay, this might be a rare disease. I can look at it in my books, or I can ask some specialists. This is actually the function that we need to do in our patient organizations, to find the patients as soon as possible the best cure and the specialist they can turn to. So 300 million people living with rare disease in the world, and they affecting all ages, but mostly children. You can see these groups, for example, what kind of groups we have, main groups for the rare diseases, and they are, some of them are metabolic rare diseases. That's the reason I'm talking about it also today. We have also some rare diseases in the neuromuscular, autoimmune, development abnormalities, bleeding disorders, cardiovascular, cardiomyopathies, respiratory, skin diseases, and other rare cancers that are really, really rare diseases. So the characteristic of the rare diseases, as I said before, they are chronic, progressive, degenerative, disabling, and frequently life-threatening diseases. These diseases mostly come by children. They are also genetic, as said, and they have also geographic plans, like geographic mappings. This is very similar to FH, where you can see, for example, in the Netherlands, that there is a big population, but we can also see that in South Africa, where the Dutch colonies were going, there are some special population for FH. So this is the same, for example, also with some other rare diseases, that we can find some kind of mutations and population in several countries or in several so-called tribes, for example, in Canada, and we can nicely follow with the family tree where these diseases or where these people moved through the genetic mutations to the sequencing. So as said, they are quite geographically scattered. The research on these diseases are relatively high costs. So the reason that rare diseases have high pricing is because the research and development has to be the same way as for any other drugs. But because the population is much less, the costs of a person or a patient is going to be higher. Sometimes with rare diseases, this is also a problem, that until a patient is going through the patient journey and having really a right diagnosis, there are so many years going by that maybe the patient is not able to get the right cure. And also another thing that you can see, that there are 7,000 rare diseases exist with less than 500 FDA-approved treatments, and only 5% of the rare diseases have treatments. I had a chance to talk to several HCPs that they said that they have patients with rare diseases, but because there is no treatment for this rare disease, they just have the minimum diet or the existing medication that they can give the patients. But they also know that this is not going to cure them. And what is our advantage in our society now, that we are having speed up processes in a lot of things, and this is also something in the rare disease areas today. What is happening, that there are some treatments are coming year after year for patients with rare diseases. And then this is just a slide for the calls for action for the global level. So Rare Diseases has also a patient organization. This is Eurordis. They have more than 3,000 rare diseases included in their organization from all kind of rare disease areas. But the reason with this, that a patient, for example, if we say there is a patient, let's say, taking a population of 8 million, a rare disease from an 8 million can be 8 patients in an 8 million population. So it's really, really rare. Those patients normally report that they feel isolated. They don't have any other person to talk to about their disease because it's a rare disease. And they also know that they don't have any peer, or they are the only one in the world. And to connect them to a patient organization is extremely important. So that's also one of the call of actions of the alliance, of the European Alliance of Eurordis, to connect these people. But, as I said before, there are so many rare disease areas, so the chance that a specific rare disease patient is meeting another patient is very, very small. So what we are actually thinking of, or why I would like to open up the floor for discussion, is, as I said before, there are few rare diseases that are concerned for metabolic rare diseases, like LAL disease, like herpes moly is not a rare disease, like FCS. Those rare diseases, they are all lipid metabolic rare diseases. And because those patients need the connection, they need to be connected with other patients to share the burden of the disease, to share their everyday life, to share their diet, and to get just a smile and say, okay, you will live with it, or if there is anything bad happened in the family, when one of the members, they know how to overcome on that. So these people need community. And we are all here, patient organization leaders with FH, but some of our organizations are not only covering FH, they are also covering other lipid metabolic disorders. So I would like to open up the stage now for discussion. And before it happens, I would like to ask Jules if the Heart UK is specialized for FH, or do you have also other rare diseases in the lipid area?
Thank you. Heart UK covers all lipid metabolic conditions, including the rare ones, so FCS, cytosterolemia, etc. What we have done recently is we did an advocacy day for FCS patients to teach them how to carry out advocacy in Parliament, etc., etc. And that went down really, really well. And the biggest thing coming out of that was actually they're not alone. And I think that's the big thing. We are slightly different to most organisations here because we're bigger than most. So we can do that, but I think it is possible to do it. And I think it's quite sad that some of these people don't have the support that they could have.
Which other organization is having... I can
comment on.
Yes, please.
In Sweden, our organization, we are focused on FH, but we have an association for rare diseases, and they take care of, regardless what area it is. So normally if they ask me, oh, this is a rare disease, can you take it on? We refer to them. And they have a specialist, and I think they are doing it well.
Thank you. Other countries may be having other experiences with other lipid metabolic diseases, maybe Austria?
Yes, well, actually, when we founded the patient organization, we said right from the beginning we don't want to have only FH included, but also other lipid disorders, for instance, Lp(a) and FCS and LAL-D and everything that is connected to lipids, because Austria is not such a big country, and we actually also include the other disorders. And Germany is a big country and does the same.
They've sent a list. Michaela said that they cover mixed familial hypercholesterolemia, lipoprotein in brackets A, LPLD, LAL, and FCS, and that's the co of the COL-CO that they have.
Thank you. Andre, yes?
Thank you. In Switzerland, we started actually with FH, but FH doesn't mean familial hypercholesterolemia, but familial forms of hypercholesterolemia. So we include all the other familial forms, familial combined, lipoproteinemia, little a, and FCS, and whatever else is associated with high lipids. Also low lipids, for example, if the HDL is low, that's of course also a topic for us.
Thank you, Andre. Maybe Franz would like to comment or say a word about that. Thank you.
Yes, Franz will comment. Annette only deals with FH. Of course, the lipid centers that are connected to Annette are taking care of all the main lipid disorders that have been mentioned by the colleagues that are here. But at the moment, and we have had this discussion, is it pertinent to enlarge the recruitment of patients, and particularly LPLA is very similar. I'd say you have the heredity, you have the genetical background, but it would probably mean much more patient than FH patients. So we are discussing this, but at the moment we are focused on FH.
Thank you.
In Poland, we also gather, except of FH patients, other familial hyperlipidemia, but we are a little organization right now, and we don't have such a patient.
Yeah, our patient organization will cover all forms of hypercholesterolemia, whatever the reason, including FH and the other.
Anybody else would like to say a word about how you function? Yes, thank you.
In Belgium, we cover just the FH, but I'm here like in a quality of mother of a kid that has cytosterolemia, and there are just 100 persons with this disease all over the world. So for me, finding someone who could facilitate communication would be great, because I am alone. So I'm just alone.
And this is something really true that I heard also from some patients. For example, I know a mother who has a patient with a rare disease, rare disease, and that child, when that child was born, was basically vomiting and just losing weight, and the mother didn't know who to contact, so she contacted a patient who was actually 20 years old, older than the little child, and she was already an adult, talking to that other mother about her experience when she was a child. So there are so many beautiful connections and really so much support that can be given in this rare disease area. As you say, a lot of patients, they feel so isolated, they feel that they are alone and nobody can understand, because a rare disease is rare. And it's rare to see people around. And that's the reason I feel a bit of like a missioner in this part, because I really have the chance to meet these patients and talk to them. And once the connection is done, the treatment works better. Maybe it's just a placebo effect, but whatever effect it is, it works better for the patients.
Just as a thought, I think as an FH Europe board, we've had a number of discussions about this over the years. 3 years, about whether we cover other conditions outside of FH, and there is a mixed bag of views on the board. I just wonder whether what we should do, because these patients are alone, and I think this is really quite sad. It is a metabolic condition. So I wonder whether we should set up an arm of FH Europe. We have, as a charity, we have set ourselves up to cover all dyslipidemia. So what we've actually done is we've set up for FH and related conditions, so it can be any dyslipidemia. So I think what we could do is set up an arm for the rare disease group, would be my suggestions. And what we can't do is we know the agenda here is so tight, so maybe what we could do is invite those patients to attend and have that group report to this to this meeting, and then maybe they have their own meeting and we report into that group. I don't know, it's just a suggestion off the top of my head. I don't know whether that would be a sensible thing. So Gabby, do you want to Can I just hand to Gabby first? What do you think?
No, I think this is a really good idea, and we could also include like a section at our website, maybe for these rare diseases. That's what I do, for instance, in Austria. We have also these sections for other dyslipidemias, and it should be fine. I mean, we will not expect too many patients, but they would be happy to have a home. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as our example shows, it is a topic and it is important, but you must really know, if you focus on FH, it's from the scientific and medical point of view, it's very easy because you know the disease, you have some strategies. But if you include thousands or hundreds other diseases, it will be much more difficult. And so I think that's a decision which this group should make, if we include them or not, because this is a completely different strategy.
It would only be the metabolic conditions that we would cover, I think. But if we had the arm, that perhaps Belgium could lead on that, maybe, that would make sense. And I think it's jolly hard work to do this on a voluntary basis. And I think we've all got good hearts in this room. So, of course, we want to support people. But we have to remember we've got day jobs. But I still think that there's a lot of people that are out there. When I say a lot of people, there's still small numbers in comparison to FH. But I think that we should think about it. So I'm going to do a straw poll in a second with hands up. But Diana.
No, I just wanted to make a suggestion, because we have information from all the member organisations on the website, and I was aware that Gunnar directs people to Rare Diseases Organisation in Sweden, and I think it would be helpful if we had that detail for each country to add to the website, and if we say which other things are covered in the association page, because if they can't go to one country, someone like Florentina could find another country in the network that deals and could communicate with them and share something.
Okay, can we do a straw poll, hands up? Who is for the idea and who isn't? So for it to start with. Oh, a bit half and half here. Okay, chair prerogative. I'm for. So I say, let's give it the arm a go and see where we get to. Florentina, do you think that's a reasonable thing to do?
Yes, for me, yes. But, you know, I know in Belgium it's just my daughter. In Romania also it's just my daughter. I don't know how many people there are. So for me it's very important because I can help.
But to set up a Facebook group and to introduce patients into the closed group, I think that in itself, if that's all we do, then that's a start.
But the problem with rare disease is that they are not diagnosed. And if you start with rare disease with a website, you increase the numbers. This is clearly. So when you asked 50 years ago, FH, is there anybody having FH? No, we have one patient or two patients. In 1935, there were 10 families, and before there was not known about FH. So I think the numbers increase if you and then it's not so rare, and this is the goal, I think.
I think we should have the strategy of which rare disease, metabolic rare. We are only talking about metabolic rare diseases to include, so we can just make a strategy which metabolic rare diseases we would include, and to focus on those that have a diagnostic pathway and also possibly a treatment. So that would be positively outcomes for the patients that would connect to the organization. Okay, let's close up this session.
Okay, I don't think we can dilute what we do, and I think that's the big thing, is we have to keep focused we can't lose the focus on FH, because otherwise we're diluting ourselves too thinly. And I can confirm Heart UK does that at the moment, and hence the new strategy, because we can't afford to lose that focus. So thank you very much, Theodora, and thank you everybody for the contribution. So we're now moving over to the European Alliance for Patient Access, and Neil Bettridge is from this organisation, and he is going to talk to us about their work.
Thank you very much, Jules. Thanks. Can you get me? Okay, thank you. Yeah, and really a sincere thank you to everybody, as well as yourself, Jules and Diana, for inviting me to speak with you today, and really just to share the weekend with you. It's been amazing. I'm not just being polite when I say it's been a real privilege, actually, to get to meet and hear talk so many passionate, committed patient representatives, because that's something that personally I've always been committed to. Just to give you a bit of background on myself, my journey, if you like, into patient advocacy started way back in the 1960s when I was a little boy and developed arthritis at the age of 3 or 4. So I was one of the lucky ones, although it was very severe at the time. 4, I couldn't start school with my peers because I was in hospital for many months. Then at 5, I was out, but using a wheelchair to get around with very, badly swollen knees and ankles, etc. But around about 10 or 11, I kind of had a sort of remission. It's left me damaged, especially my vision, but I've been one of the lucky ones. And growing up, I had no idea, even when I was in my teens or early 20s, I didn't really know that what we call patient groups existed. And then I found them. I was doing a lot of voluntary work at the university, and I just discovered that there was a group called Arthritis Care that that involved and engaged and gave a voice to people with the condition. And I thought, wow. So I was lucky enough to apply for a job there and got a junior job, and eventually worked in policy there. They have staff, and became the CEO in the end, which was a real privilege and honour for me to lead an organisation that I just wished my parents had known about 20 or 30 years previously. So in that time, I got involved in European work in rheumatology. So that's my background and sort of specialist interest. But for the last 15, 20 years, I've also been working on wider issues around patient advocacy, and especially user involvement, giving people with direct experience of the condition the opportunity to speak for themselves and to form networks and coalitions and really try and make positive changes happen, like you were all trying to do here in terms of policy, using advocacy, etc., to try and do that. So, but that is my personal background. The European Alliance for Patient Access is the European division of the Global Alliance for Patient Access, hence GAFPA. And I just want to today really give you a brief background as to the organisation, so you know about it, and then for you to see if you think it has anything to offer you to support the work you are engaged with, because this is about trying to add value to what you are already doing. We're not trying to sort of sell you any new ideas or encourage you to do this or to do that. It's about supporting you, if we can, if you feel that's appropriate. And at the end of the presentation, I'll just let you know about our next meeting, which is specifically looking at issues around cholesterol management, looking at involving stakeholders in cardiovascular, diabetes, stroke, etc. And that's, I think, really why Jules invited me to speak today, because I think, we have a common interest, and let's find out if it's something we can work together on. So, the background of all this, excuse all the acronyms and abbreviations. I know it's late on a Sunday morning, and we all want to get to lunch and then home, but I'll try and keep this light touch and no heavy text, but just a bit of background. The Alliance for Patient Access, AFPA, was set up in the US about 15 years ago. And it all started when a doctor, a neurologist actually, went to Capitol Hill to speak to the politicians in Washington, D.C., to try and lobby and advocate for better treatment, better standards of care for people with neurological conditions. And the doctor concerned was so disappointed by the quality of his colleagues' representations, in other words, the way they did their advocacy, that he thought things had to change. And he set up a training institute called IFPA, the Institute for Patient Access, which set about trying to train clinicians initially to become better patient advocates on behalf of patient care. And that got going over the years, and gradually they then realized that talking with patient groups as well as clinicians was going to be important. But the whole ethos and the model is to try to develop networks, working groups, coalitions, whatever mechanism might work to give a voice where there is a collective interest in a health issue where changes in policy could bring about benefits. And you can see this is just a few examples. There are more, and it's all on the website. So you can see that cardiovascular disease has its own specific working group that came out of that original work of AFPA, along with lots of other disease areas like diabetes, hepatitis, etc. And more loosely, not necessarily a working group on a specific topic, but coalitions, networks, again, around a whole range of conditions. And again, you can see cardiovascular health is one of the issues where there's been a good deal of work going on. So you'll be thinking, well, that sounds all very nice, but who pays for this? What's the funding arrangement? So the funding comes from, at the moment, these companies. I think it's about 40 in total. So these companies will pay into AFPA, mostly in the US, annual subscriptions, dues, if you like. They pay their contributions, their dues on an annual basis, and that enables AFPA to, if you like, run programs or meetings or specific pieces of work based on common interest when policymakers are looking into a specific issue or when patient groups or doctors are raising issues and saying, hey, what about looking at this topic? So the global approach, the global focus, if you like, has really been about bringing patient groups and medical societies together when there's a common interest. But not just to talk about it. We want to make sure that something concrete comes out of this. And what materials, what tools can we develop together to support better advocacy? And of course, very often that's to do with educational materials, training materials, and so on. So globally, there's quite a good reach of GAFPA's work. That's where some of the places we were, or most of the places in 2017. It kind of carried on a bit the following year, and it was a few years ago in Europe that we really started to move. So I sort of direct or coordinate the European activity, because it was a few years ago when AFPA decided that it could be doing work across the globe, including Europe. So we've already had meetings in the European Parliament and several other European cities. Not always, you know, the obvious big cities in the bigger countries, but really quite dispersed. And these are the sorts of materials that get produced. So the GAFPA or AFPA model, if you like, would be typically to bring together a group of stakeholders, often the majority of which would be patient group representatives, to have a one-day workshop. So let me make it clear on the funding issue. Nobody gets paid to attend, so it's not like an ad board. But nobody is charged to attend either. So for you guys, if you come to a GAFPA workshop, you don't pay anything, but you don't get paid. So we would cover your economy travel, and if necessary, there's a night's accommodation. And that comes out of the big pot of money that GAFPA has from its members. And after the end of the discussions, the workshop, which is always incredibly interactive, there's a few presentations on advocacy, a bit of advocacy training maybe, a little bit of looking at the history of the topic, but mostly it's whatever the stakeholders want to talk about. And we try and capture that. We produce a draft report. Nothing gets published until every person who's attended the meeting has approved it to make sure everybody's happy. And then it's published, it goes out on the GAFPA social media channels, etc., on the website. And then if that becomes an advocacy tool for you to use at the European or at the national level, great. That's really the objective. And as we were talking about yesterday during the social media session, etc., younger people in particular, I believe, are more responsive sometimes to infographics, to visuals of this sort. So the materials we produce tend to be some traditional ones, but also hopefully ones which are effective. That's really the only criteria, including some policy briefings. What are the policy issues? What is the consensus that may have come out of the workshops, and what can we do with that? That's the most important thing. And also, where appropriate, and quite often, we can translate the educational materials that come out of these workshops and these working groups. Everybody with a condition, whether it's FH or whatever, lives somewhere, right? Everyone lives in a country. So whilst it's very important to do the work at the European level, it's just as important to make sure that at the national level, a bit like Jules, you were saying in the summary of last year's work of FH Europe, you know, it's about representing the collective view at the European level and supporting national organisations to be more effective, and where we can deliver tools to help that, when that's what we're here for. And the outputs, again, we use YouTube. So again, it's all quite aligned with a lot of what we were talking about yesterday in terms of using social media. So there's quite a few animations and so on the website. And also the website carries these policy briefs and these think pieces, things which hopefully get people talking. And the website is simply gafpa.org. And from that, you can link to the original US-based one, AFPA, where there's also a lot of policy materials, including the work on the cardiovascular work. So moving to the question more immediately at hand, in terms of what we're doing in Europe at the moment, certainly talking to patient groups, to healthcare professionals working in this area, it's quite clear there's a lot of change going on, which is great. As new approved therapies come forward, or as ones which become available maybe don't always reach the people who most need them, then clearly there are ever-evolving challenges where advocacy can try to help. So we're looking at the possibility, and it just depends whether people want to do it, but we're looking at the possibility of offering a network, a platform of organisations, individuals, patient groups, medical societies, individual clinicians, etc., who may want to work not in a very formal coalition where you have to pay membership or anything like that, but simply whether there is a set of policy issues which run across various disease states, but where lipid management, cholesterol management might well be a factor. And is it the case that in diabetes and stroke and cardio, that people are really identifying where there are common interests and exploring whether that common interest might have a more impact at the policy level? And if so, what sort of advocacy actions might be required to make that change happen? So this really follows the successful work that is carried on in the US in this area. So it's probably the same sort of model, but adapted according to whatever people in Europe might want to see develop. But it's about facilitating, it's about keeping the network informed and engaged, probably develop a series of webinars or teleconferences, really whatever people want. We will try to support that. And the case study, as I mentioned, from the US started a couple of years ago and was named the Partnership to Advance Cardiovascular Health, PACH. So just a couple of words on that, and then I'll wrap up in the interests of time. But it's all about seeing if there is consensus about which access issues, which policy issues, which issues around management and care we might think that there's something which we can do something about through advocacy. So in the US then, that model brought together, and I know through social media and your own contacts, you'll be either in touch with or aware of many or all of these organizations. So these guys were brought together through GAFPA and developed their own priorities through a series of meetings and workshops of the kind I've been describing. And out of that came some consensus about what the priorities were, and as such, GAFPA then developed materials to try to reflect that. But, you know, as I say, we're here to kind of listen and see what the issues are, reflect that back to you as a community to see if we're getting it right or not. And if we're getting it right, then to see what we can do with that or how we can help you to do something with that. So my question really, having heard that, is, you know, can what you have to do be supported in any way by some sort of extra facilitation of a wider group of stakeholders? And can there be something in this for FH specifically, so that you both influence the wider policy advocacy work that may be going on, whilst at the same time raising the profile of FH itself within that? Because that's the sort of win-win I think that we're all trying to get out of collaboration. So, very importantly, then the next GAFPA workshop, or I should say EAFPA, because it's the European division, is going to be looking at these issues, like I mentioned. We're just in the process of issuing invitations and publicising it. It would be great if FH Europe could attend. It would be great if any of you, as national organisations, wish to attend. If you do, then please, if you want to find out more, then please speak to me at lunchtime, or contact me after today, or email the director of GAFPA who controls the administration side of it, chase@gafpa.org, and then we will let you know a bit more about the meeting. But to summarise it once more, it will have a little bit of training skills around policy and advocacy and communications. There'll be a bit of discussion about the topic. It won't be heavy on presentations. It will be largely very interactive because there'll be a reasonably diverse range of stakeholders present, and we just want to hear what you think the issues are and what you think can be done about it. That's really the objective of the workshop. And with that, as we get close to lunchtime, I just thought I'd give you a different sort of conclusion than thank you and any questions from one of my favourites, Winnie the Pooh, because I think that's quite a handy philosophy to bear in mind. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed. Any questions for Neil?
As I say, I'll be around at lunch so we can have a chat. Happy to take any comments or questions now.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much indeed, Neil. Appreciate your effort to come over and talk to us about that. It all sounds very good. We've got quite a lot going on with FH with the Dubai meeting, so that might be a bit close on top of the Dubai meeting as well. But that's not to say that you wouldn't be able to help us in the future. And it may be that somebody in this room is happy to do that and attend the Brussels meeting. We could probably send a note out to the network and ask, because not everybody's going to Dubai, of course. So, okay, thank you very much indeed. I'm just going to close this down. So that now brings us to the closing part of the meeting. As far as the video training is concerned, Victor has very kindly said that that he will produce, him and his team will produce a guide to go on the member area of the website, but not just a written guide. It's going to be a video guide. It's going to be a series of videos that you can actually download and practice editing yourself. So I think this will be a great plus. So as soon as that is ready, we will make sure that that comes out to you on email. That is, of course, if you're not experts by the time it arrives, because I'm sure we'll all be practicing like mad. The actions for 2019, we talked a lot about this yesterday, and I don't think we really need to go into too much detail, but one thing we do need to discuss is the global call to action. Now, we don't have a huge amount of time, and I don't know whether anybody has any ideas other than one that I've got, and please shout if you do, was for me, I was just thinking, is there anybody that is interested in giving the feedback? If you've got some information to go back, I did promise the FH Foundation that I would go back with some feedback after this meeting. I've got some feedback. I've got some feedback from EAS. Is it worth having a phone call? Because we can't really go through in great detail now on it, and I think we're probably all tired and just need something to eat and get home. So hands up who would like to be included on a phone call and has some information. Okay, Diana, can you write down, so Vincent, Andre, Inessa, okay. Could you keep your hands up for a minute? Yeah. Have you got all that? Yeah. Dorothy. Anybody else? Anyone else? I can't see. You got Gabby and Inessa and Vincent and Andre, yeah? Oh, and Gergle, who also from Hungary. Oh, has he gone? Yeah, he's left. Okay, so what we will do is we will organise a. If Diana can give me that list, I'll write to you all on the way home because I need to set something up early this week if I can to have the discussion, because obviously it's only fair that I go back, because they did ask for feedback last week and I said I wasn't able to give that. So that's all good. There will be another opportunity to feed into that, of course, in Dubai. If you haven't already replied, Diana has in fact sent the notes over to the World Heart Federation, who are coordinating everything. They are not organising the travel, but they are asking you to pay the travel and then you claim it back. There are restrictions, and I can't remember who I was talking to yesterday, but somebody said to me it's not covering the cost of the flight, so they're not going to get people to turn up if it doesn't cover the cost of the flight. So nonetheless, let's hope that we can cover that. There's certainly going to be a few of us there, and I think it is important because we are the European voice, and I know it's being led by the FH Foundation as a global initiative, but of course we are a very important force in a global community. Sorry to say this, it isn't all about the FH Foundation. I know that's being recorded, but it's not. It is about every organisation in every country, and that's a key thing to make sure there is collaboration, and certainly the FH Foundation do want to collaborate with all of us, but as FH Europe and individual countries, we need to all make sure we have that one voice in Europe. So I think that really just brings us to say thank you very much indeed to Veronique for helping organise, and of course Vincent also to help organise this amazing meeting, and a huge thank you to Diana, who has worked tirelessly as well. I have to say, I don't know how she does it. It kind of just comes together. So I think, yes. Thank you very much, and another fantastic meeting. And thank you to all the speakers, of course. There have been some great talks today and yesterday. But also a huge thank you to Victor, Erin and Bonse for actually videoing, live streaming, Facebook living, if that's the right phrase. And of course to Theodora, I don't know where Theodora is, over there, for being our shepherd. And of course, thank you to the sponsors, because we could not have done this without the sponsorship from the organisations. So that just leaves me to say thank you to all of you for your contributions. Thank you to everybody on live streaming for joining us on the live streaming. And we will be sending out a report to everybody in due course. Safe trip home, and we have finished slightly early, so a little more networking time. Thank you all very much.